This is my winter barn motif. So this barn is featured in the fall and spring, and now here at winter we have it with a pine tree, either with or without the stars. So this one is for Christmas, and I've painted it as a nightscape. So grab your supplies and I'll show you how I painted this. I have my colors mixed up and I've got my little paper here so that I can test those out. And I'm going to start with this tree here. It's just a bunch of scribbly lines, so if you're ever wondering how to just draw your own, you just kind of obviously get that Christmas tree shape, and I'm just going out to the edges of the scribbles, which is just representing those pine branches. We can always add a few more layers, but that's kind of the first to go around there. And if you want to add some like decorations to it, like I had in my example, you could always leave more white of your paper in there. That way when you go over it, there's something left, as far as you would kind of do a little more like this so that you have that area there for some decoration. So we'll just try that out in a minute. And now I'm going to move on to the roof, and this is going to be a red barn with a brown, kind of brown black roof. Going to go in and deposit some of that paint around the edges and these lines here. And I'll let those, what I call, set up, which means I'm going to let them kind of dry. I'm going to add a little bit of black in here. So I'm not setting it up yet. I'm going to just add a few things more here, and we'll go over that with a clear brush after it's kind of set up. That way it'll keep its lines. Do the eave of this roof. And I'm working on the roof first so that I can come in here and do, I've got some green in there, come in here and do the sky in a minute, and that way it'll already be dry. And now I'm going to take a little bit of this kind of black gray and tap that into some of these lines that are already drawn in there for you if you're using my take and paint that you can find at Tamery.com. It's a lot of fun. I have a ton of over 100 different motifs, so that they're creative prompts. Even if you can draw, sometimes you just don't feel like having to think about what you're going to draw. These are very expandable. You can change them so many different ways by adding pencil or micron pen to these designs. So it's just really nice when you just don't want to have to think about what you're going to draw and do that. You can just paint. Okay, so I've got this kind of set up here. Do a little bit of this horizon line here. I'm imagining these are drifts of snow, and so I've made them in this very light watered down blue kind of cast to it. And now that I've got that, I might move some of this around, just loosening up those lines a bit. And I do want to come in with a little bit of yellow that'll shine from the barn, so if I put that right over where the blue is, it will turn to green. And I'm going to just dabble in a little bit of yellow there. Leave that open. Same with this, those two windows. All right, now this roof is pretty set in, so I've got a clear brush here, and I'm just going to start to barely loosen up some of that pigment that was laid down along those lines. You can see they spread kind of nicely, giving it a texture. Now I'm going to come in here on my red barn, and I'm going to go right over the lines that I painted. That will make them less stark, but keep them somewhat in place, blend them a little bit. Now that's a very kind of red, and the more of the paper that shows through, the more pink it's going to look. This red I mixed, I think, with green and red together, so I'm adding that on top just to give it a little bit of a different hue. And this is actually part of the barn at the bottom of foundation, so you can decide how you want to paint that. And now I'm going to carefully come in here, get that triangle with the tip of my brush. And now I can paint that with strokes as long as you don't wait too long to fill it in. Like here you can kind of see that it started to pull the edges. In this case, you can see where I didn't go over those lines. They're kind of staying put because I haven't put my brush over it. You can decide what way you like to apply that, but that's where you're kind of thinking in layers a little bit. Now I'm putting some of that kind of green red on top there. And carefully going around those edges. And I think in this case I'm going to paint these triangles in red also. You could make your barn doors all brown or black. And I'll go back over some of those areas. Went out of the lines from a distance. You will not be able to tell. So don't stress about it too much. And we can go over that a little bit with a little bit of darker as well. And now I'm just going to add that other layer. When it's wet, it's nice and bright, and then as it dries, it starts to soak into the paper. And then now we can kind of tap in a little bit of that brown-black mixture. And some of them I put a little bit of green on my roof because it's worn. Some kind of gold. Let's try that. If you leave the white of the paper, it'll show up more yellow, of course. So there's little things back there in the barn that you can kind of see through the window, but you've got the light in there. And We'll get the trunk of the tree. So the big part is the skies. You just want to make sure you've got enough water. Make sure that this is pretty dry across here. And now, my paper's curling a little bit because I used quite a bit of water here. And I'm just going around my painting here with a thin coating. That's a little thicker coating of water. And when you're doing the sky, I suggest you go right to left. So we're popping in, and you kind of probably want to prepare some of your colors ahead of time. Some gray in here. Because we want it to look like it's nighttime or dusk. I'm not going to be super specific, but I am kind of working quickly because it's going to start to set up and I want it to be loose and moving around. So I went up and down here, but I'll make sure to go left to right because that's obviously the horizon line goes left to right. And now I want to take a little bit of blue and pop that in kind of to the background. Turn it around so I can see what I'm doing here. Make it a little bit even. I didn't want just blue across here. I want to put blue in some other areas, especially right up to the edge of the barn so it looks like it's in the background. Carefully go around this edge, and I want to disperse that line up here. Okay, so we've got our night sky. And while I'm waiting for some of that to dry, I'm just going to take the fine tip of my brush and go along some of these shingles, giving it a shadow and that edge. And we'll come in here and do a nice shadow. Got some nice lines, and if you ever want to go back over with pencil or micron on top of some of these lines, if they got too muddy, you can always do that. Now, let's see if that's dry enough to get our little star in there. Add a little bit more yellow. And don't know if you want to put ornaments on your tree. And if you would like to put kind of snow falling in the background, I'll show you my example. You wait till this is completely dry, and it may take a day, or carefully go over it with a hairdryer after it's just like slightly damp and not running. So I will show you my example. In here I have the gel pen that I sell in my shop, or you can get them at a craft store, where I've put that on the tree and I have it kind of following in the foreground in front of the barn. Some flakes, some dots, and that's just a lot of fun to kind of add some interest. And the more dark you have your background, the more that will stand out. You can also, as you see, kind of make the shingles a little more defined. I've got some greens and reds and oranges in there. So you can create till your heart's content. Merry Christmas.